What's up, y'all? This is your boy Yash Chosen One. It's going down again once more. Uh, Sticking out of the Bible. Keeping away from the Bible right now. We're in chapter 77, the book of Jasher. For those following along, um, again, the book of Jasher is mentioned in the Bible. Uh, there are several books that was taken out. For those who've been following, for those who do have the knowledge to know about this book, then that's why you've been following me all this time. So. Um, I'm gonna try to kick like two. It's pretty long chapters, man. I'll try to kick chapters. Well, 77 is long, so I'll try to kick that one. And 78, I'll kick that one in too, because when chapter 80 comes, man, that's a really cool chapter. But we need to really get into so we can jump back into the Bible. You know what I'm saying? So this kind of parallels all what's going on during chapter 2 of the book of Exodus. We're going to get started. This is chapter 77. May the Most High guide us in knowledge and understanding today as we read this. And hope you guys learned something today. So here we go. And Adikam was 20 years old when he reigned over Egypt. He reigned 4 years. And remember, Adikam was actually a midget. He was a dwarf, and he wasn't the most handsome of pharaohs, but he had more knowledge than the other pharaohs. The other ones were idiots. So that's why Pharaoh chose this particular son of the other two. In the 206th year of Israel's going down to Egypt, did Adikam reign over Egypt. But he continued not so long in his reign over Egypt as his fathers had continued their reigns. So we see we're 206 years being enslaved in Egypt. As the Israelites were, we was 206 years, into Egypt, man. So the time wasn't yet. I think the prophecy was 400 years. So right now we 206 years into it, I think. For Melo, his father reigned 94 years in Egypt, but he was 10 years sick and died, for he had been wicked before Yah. So even the pharaohs of the face of the earth were put in position by Yah. And if he wanted them to reign, he let them reign. If he wanted them to die, he let them die. Yah's in control of everything. And all the Egyptians called the name of Adikam Pharaoh, like the name of his fathers, as was their custom to do in Egypt. We read about how pharaohs became to be. When from the first pharaoh who made a tax upon Egypt, upon the dead. So therefore, the real meaning of the word pharaoh is like a taxing of the dead. He found a way to tax the dead. Kind of like if you bury somebody, you can still charge them. You can still charge somebody to be buried, in that place. So it was a taxation for the dead. And all the wise men of Pharaoh called the name of Adikam Ahuz. For short, it's called Ahuz in the Egyptian language. And Adikam was exceedingly ugly, and he was a cubit and a span, and he had a great beard, which reached to the soles of his feet. So you just imagine this. So you just imagine this midget, and he had and he had this beard, and it reached to his feet. Oh my God! So that's pretty cool. Look, and Pharaoh sat upon his father's throne to reign over Egypt, and he conducted the government of Egypt in his wisdom. So even though he was ugly, even though he was short, he still had the wisdom to rule over Egypt. And whilst he reigned, he exceeded his father and all the preceding kings in his wickedness, and he increased his yoke over the children of Israel. So although he was a midget, although he was short, he did have knowledge, and he increased the yoke upon the Israelites' neck. And he went with his servants to Goshen to the children of Israel, and he strengthened the labor over them, and he said unto them, Complete your work each day's task, and let not your hands slacken from your work from this day forward, as you did in the days of my father. So, like I said, man, he wanted to strengthen the grip on the Egyptians, because on the Israelites, because the Israelites were steadily building Egypt for free. It was free labor, just like we did here in the Americas. So as we did back in Egypt, and that's how Deuteronomy 28:68 comes into play. You know what I'm saying? It's the same prophecy that Moses gave all the way back then. And he placed officers over them from amongst the children of Israel, and over them officers he placed taskmasters from amongst his servants. So you ever see in the Hebrew, the word massa actually means oppressor. So when you saw our Hebrew slaves, in the Americas being whipped, and they was calling the overseer massa, it wasn't master. Massa meant oppressor in Hebrew. So they knew what they were doing back then too. And he placed over them a measure of bricks for them to do according to that number day by day. And he turned back and went to Egypt. At that time, the taskmasters of Pharaoh ordered the officers of the children of Israel according to the command of Pharaoh, saying, "Thus says Pharaoh, do your work each day and finish your task, and observe the daily measure of bricks. Diminish not anything. And it shall come to pass that if you are deficient in your daily bricks, I will put your young children in their stead." So what he's saying here is that, I'm going to give you less stuff. I'm going to give you less stuff to work with. And if you don't come up with those bricks, I'm going to place your children in the place of those bricks inside those walls. So so these people were vicious, man. There were no more, they was just as wicked as what the Edomites did to us in the Americas. Sometimes they took our Hebrew women, they raised them up in a tree, sliced the stomach, the umbilical cord, and let the little baby fall to the ground, and used the baby as alligator bait, and these Egyptians were just as wicked. And it shall come to pass that if you are deficient in your daily bricks, I will put, okay, I already said that. And the taskmasters of Egypt did so in those days as Pharaoh had ordered them. And whenever any deficiency was found in the children of Israel's measure of their daily bricks, the taskmasters of Pharaoh would go to the wives of the children of Israel and take infants of the children of Israel to the number of bricks deficient. They would take them by force from their mothers' laps and put them in a building instead of the bricks. So, these Egyptologists and these people like praising Africa and all this stuff, man, when you go back and look at what these Egyptians really did to you, man, and you see the thing is with Egyptologists, man, they want to always look at the vanity of Egypt, the pyramids and the Sphinx and all that stuff, and the gold and the treasures, all the stuff that you see in Hollywood. But when you show them, just how bad these Hamites were, they were no better than a white man. You know what I'm saying? And how they treated you, they were no more better than them. And so when you tell one, they don't want to read that. Oh no, you see, you got to look at it on both sides, man. When somebody introduces you to something, you look at it on both sides, man. They always show you the glory and the wonder of it. But then when you dig down deep into it, it isn't so glorious at all. Whilst their fathers and mothers were crying over them and weeping when they heard the weeping voices of their infants in the wall of the building. And you see how wicked that is? They put these babies inside the wall, and then they use mortar to cover the babies up while the babies were crying. So the walls were really live. They was made for human babies. Eventually the babies became skeletons, and it kind of just petrified it, just like brick would do. And that's what they was doing to your Hebrew babies. And the taskmasters of Egypt did so to the babes of Israel for many days, and no one pitied or had compassion over the babes of the children of Israel. Who was going to have compassion? No, the Egyptians weren't going to have compassion over them. Other Israelites couldn't do anything because they was powerless. They were slaves. They were strangers in a land that wasn't theirs. And the number of all the children killed in the building was 270. There's 270 kids that's inside those walls. Those are bones inside those walls, man. These, how could somebody, first of all, they were taking the babies and throwing them into the river. You know what I'm saying? Because the prophecy was already made that there would be a child that grew up to take the place of Pharaoh to lead the children out of Israel. And what they was doing, they was taking these babies and they was throwing them into the river. So none of them can grow up. They were taking the firstborn of each child and throw them into the river. Well, actually, not the firstborn, every male child. And the number of other children, okay, blah, blah, blah. Some whom they had built upon them instead of the bricks which had been left deficient by their fathers, and some whom they had drawn out dead from the building. And the labor imposed upon the children of Israel in the days of Anakim exceeded in hardship that which they performed in the days of his father. And the children of Israel sighed every day on account of their heavy work, for they had said to themselves, Behold, when Pharaoh shall die, his son will rise up and lighten our work. And see, and that just goes back to trusting in Yah instead of trusting in man. So they thought that when the old Pharaoh died, the one that led them into oppression was going to be, had died, that their son would be less wicked than him, but he turned out to be even more wicked. Therefore, they put their trust in this man instead of the Most High. But you gotta think about it. We as humans, man, you're in hardship, man. You in labor all day, and you praying every day that something to change, and nothing's changing. And so, you as a human being, you'll start thinking a certain way. Maybe the Most High has left us. So I kind of feel it's the same way that was with Joseph when he was with the baker and the who was the other guy? It was the baker and it was the chief cook and something else. I forgot. But Joseph he interpreted the dreams and he wanted that baker to remember him. But when the baker went back to Pharaoh, when he was reinstated, he totally forgot Joseph altogether. So the Most High made it to where Joseph stayed in jail another 8 years. You know what I'm saying? All right, man. I think that's about enough right there. I'll continue this chapter. I'll continue on verse 22. I'm going to try my best to finish the chapter. On the next one, it's 51 verses, but I'll try my best to finish on the next video. Shalom to all y'all, man, and continue to study and know what's going on, man, in the world, because the world has an agenda. And it's up to you as an Israelite to shine the light upon the world and preach the word to the four corners of the world like it's supposed to. All right, man. I'll get with y'all on the next video. Shalom.